Hello, students. How are you all doing? I hope everybody is having a good day so far. It's fantastic and wonderful to have all of you in today's session once again. A very warm welcome to all of you once again to another exciting class today. This is Pratibha. I'm your senior biology teacher, and I'm going to take the class on the concept of life processes. Particularly, we shall be discussing about the topic of transportation. Okay, so if you are having any questions or any queries or you wanted to connect with us, you can please feel free to get connected with us through the comment section. And I want every one of you to please utilize this time for understanding of the concept and please try to make a note of the important points. Okay, so let's get started with today's session. In today's session, as I have been telling you, we shall be understanding about the concept of transportation. Okay, shall we start or shall we wait for a few more minutes for others to join? Shall we wait? Do all of you agree with me who have joined as of now? We shall be waiting for few more seconds for others to join and then we shall start with the discussion of today. Okay, so meanwhile, students, in the previous sessions we have understood about the concept of life process, transportation and respiration. So I hope you got a clarity on the topic after the discussion. Yes, very happy to hear those cute responses. So, in today's discussion, we shall be understanding about the concept of transportation. So, what do you mean by transportation? What does this word actually infer us? So, yes, it's good and great to see many of the students have joined. I hope this is the best time for us to start the session, right? Yeah. So, transportation, coming to the concept of transportation, what does it actually involve? It is the movement of substances from one area to another area. So, for suppose, let's take a small example. We wanted to prepare nice food items within our kitchens. So, for that, we require ingredients. From where we are getting ingredients? Of course, we buy them from grocery shops, right? Huh. Or the market or the supermarket. We buy them. From where the supermarket is getting those items? From the agricultural fields. There is an agriculture process, and after the accomplishment of the final yield, they are being sent after all the processing steps. The post harvesting, all the processing steps will be completed. They will be sending to the storehouses, from there to the supermarkets or the grocery stores. From the grocery stores, we are buying. So, how do you think the material is getting transported? From the agricultural fields to our homes, there is a pathway, right? So there is a transportation will be helping for the movement of substances from one region to another region. Similarly, if we could find with respect to the human beings, there are lot of activities which are going inside our biological systems. So there should be a necessity for the transport of the materials. For suppose we are eating food, we need to get energy from the food that we eat. So the food should get distributed to each and every part. For that, what happens? The complex food gets digested into the simple food. The simple nutrients are getting absorbed, and by the blood, the transportation or the distribution is happening to each and every cell. So, in each and every cell, the food is now getting utilized for the production of energy, and this energy is used for carrying out various growth and developmental activities. So, in today's discussion, we are here to understand regarding what is the meaning of transportation. We shall be understanding about the human circulatory system, the main components of the circulatory system, followed by the very, very important concept, the heart, the internal structure, the chambers, and the valves associated with the heart. So, we shall also understand regarding the path of blood flow through the heart. Later on, we shall understand about the heart separation. Okay, so how it is getting separated by the presence of septum, and how there is a prevention of mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. All this will be a part of our discussion today. Sorry, all excited? Thumbs up and like? Yes. So, coming to the transportation system. Transportation, do you think it is only meant for the useful substances? No, it is also responsible for the transportation of the waste substances, and particularly the waste substances should be carried away from our body and they should be getting eliminated. So, what does the transportation system correspond for? The transportation of useful materials to the cells and carrying away the waste products. So, with respect to the plants, we have conduction tissues or the vascular tissues like the xylem and the phloem. With respect to the human beings, we have the more complex systems, that is the human circulatory system. So, in case of unicellular organisms, since we knew the single cell perform all the activities, yes, there is no much structural complexity with respect to the single cell. But when the complexity increasing, when the multicellular concept is arising, there is necessity for the evolution of special organs or special tissues or special systems for the transportation to get carried out. Okay, so today's discussion will be the discussion of the human transportation system, particularly the circulatory system. Okay, so what does the circulatory system comprises of? It comprises of components: the heart, the blood vessels. The blood vessel include the arteries and the veins. So the human circulatory system comprising of the blood vessels and the heart. Okay. Remember, in the transportation system, one more thing is that is a lymphatic system, about which we will shall be having a glance also. So the main circulatory system will be of blood vessels and the heart. The blood vessels are of three types: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Okay, so let's understand about this concept of components of the circulatory system. Let's start. What will be the function? Why the circulation is important? Let's start with this topic. Okay, so why do you think circulation is important? As per our definition, we have known it is used for transport of useful substances. Along with it, it is also used for helping in carrying away the waste materials. So, what else the circulation corresponds for? Why the circulation is important means it is responsible for supplying oxygen and nutrients to the cells. Okay, supplier of oxygen and nutrients, all the cells utilize them, and at the same time the removal of carbon dioxide and waste material should happen. So circulation help to accomplish this task, for helping in maintenance of body temperature, for protection of the body through the immune cells, particularly the WBCs, and for helping in giving the clotting process, for preventing excess bleeding. This transportation is equally essential. The circulation is equally essential. So, we have now got an idea about the definition of transportation, why transportation or circulation is important, and regarding the components of the circulatory system. So, let's have a deeper understanding about these components. So, what will be the components? Can you all say with me? The three main components of the transportation system include the blood. Wow, what a beautiful picture. The blood, the heart, and the blood vessels. So we shall be understanding about the blood vessels, and the heart. Okay, but before moving on, I have a question. Did you observe the picture of the heart or the picture of the blood vessels any time? Generally, in the textbooks, they will be giving it as a dark red or blue pictures, right? Some parts will be with dark, or some parts will be with the blue color, dark red or blue. Why do you think they will place as such? Any idea? You know, actually, originally, It is associated with a thing that the blue color is a representation of the deoxygenated blood. The bright red color is a representation of oxygenated blood. Okay, oxygenated blood corresponds for the blood which is rich in oxygen. Deoxygenated blood corresponds for the blood which does not have higher amount of oxygen but a higher amount of carbon dioxide and waste substances. Okay, so in order to distinguish between both of them, they usually represent it with the dark red and the blue color. So now let's move into the concept of the blood. So the blood being considered to be the fluid connective tissue, and this blood in turn comprises of two parts. What are the two parts? Can you all tell me? Remember your previous grades. Can you all tell me what are the two parts? Okay, I shall give you one clue. We have the fluid component and we have the solid component in the blood. What is the fluid component? What is the solid component? Yes, most of you are getting it. The fluid component is nothing but the plasma, whereas the solid component is nothing but the blood cells. So the blood, the fluid connective tissue is of having two components, plasma and the blood cell. So the fluid part, which comprises approximately 55% will be the plasma and the blood cells correspond for 45%. So what will be there in the plasma? Let's see. The plasma, the blood plasma, which is the fluid part, comprises of water, proteins, salts, hormones, waste materials and dissolved gas. All these things will be present in the blood plasma. And what will be the function of the blood plasma? It is the medium for suspension of the blood cells, the solid blood cells. Okay, so it is acting as a fluid medium in which the blood cells are being suspended and there is a transportation of these blood cells. So now tell me, what are the types of blood cells? Go back to your previous grades again. Types of blood cells: WBC, RBC, and platelets. Yeah, so the blood cells will be of three types again: the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. So now again question arises. What is the function of them? Can you all tell me what might be the function of the RBCs, WBCs, and the platelet? Think. Meanwhile, let's recall some points. Keep on thinking. So if you could see the RBCs are having one more name. What can they be called as? They can be called as erythrocytes. Am I correct? Can we call them as erythrocyte? Yes, they are the erythrocytes or the red blood cells. So in short form, we shall call it as RBC. Then how they are there? They are like biconcave disc-shaped structure. They lack a nucleus and they also contain a red colored protein called as hemoglobin. This hemoglobin is the one which is responsible for oxygen transportation. And the lifespan of it will be approximately 120 days. So what is the function of the RBC? Since it is having the hemoglobin, which is the red pigment, it is transporting oxygen from where? From the lungs to the body cells. Remember the respiration chapter? We have seen this one, like this alveoli will be there and there is a presence of capillary network around the alveoli where carbon dioxide concentration will be higher. This, if we think this is a alveoli, we could see oxygen concentration will be higher. So oxygen from the alveoli diffuses into the capillary network based on the concentration gradient. Carbon dioxide at the same time diffuses into the alveoli, gets eliminated out. Huh? So what is the function of the RBC? The transport of oxygen from where? From the lungs to the body cells through the alveolar capillary network. This happens. At the same time, they are acting as a carriers of carbon dioxide from the body cells to the lungs. So where the carbon dioxide is getting produced inside the body cells as a result of various metabolic activities. If you remember the data points from respiration chapter, you can recall in case of aerobic respiration, there is carbon dioxide production as well, apart from energy. Got it, everyone? Now, coming to white blood cells. So, white blood cells, they are acting like a soldiers. They provides the defense mechanism. And we can say that these WBCs, when compared with that of RBCs, they are larger, but in number they are few when compared with that of RBC. So the shape is also varying. RBC have a fixed shape, the biconcave disc shaped structure, but no, WBCs don't, because there are multiple categories in the WBCs and they will be looking irregular. They are acting as the soldiers of the body. Whenever any of the external pathogen or the microorganism is entering in our body, the immune cells, the WBCs, the white blood corpuscles, white blood cells, they fight against those microorganisms and they will be giving us with the protection from the external pathogens. It is a worse scenario when the WBCs fail to give their defense mechanism, then we are going to get the disease. But still, the WBCs won't give up. They will be fighting until we are regained to our normal original health. And one more thing they will be doing, they will be recognizing the pathogen, and when the next same pathogen is entering into our body, they will be releasing some substances to destroy them. This where we have seen the antigen antibody concept in the previous grades. Now, the function of WBC will be the destruction of germs that enter the body and the production of antibodies to develop the immunity. Apart from that, it also protect the body from infections and diseases. So there is a protection from various kinds of infections and diseases. Okay, do you all agree? Now, what we have, the classification of WBCs. I'm not going to deal with it in a much detailed manner, just I'm going to give you a glance of it. So, types of WBCs based upon the presence of granules. Now, we have the granulocytes and the agranulocytes. Granulocytes are three categories: the neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. Agranulocyte are two: lymphocyte and the monocyte. Okay. So now coming to the platelets. Whenever there is an injury, the blood starts to ooze out. What if we did not control them? What happens if we did not control them? Excessive bleeding. It may lead to severe blood loss. Eventually, if not treated, all the blood gets lost from the body, leads to the death of the person also. So, in order to protect us from such things, in order to protect us from the worst scenarios happening, we have the platelets, or we can call them as thrombocytes. Okay, the WBCs are called as leukocytes. RBCs are erythrocytes and platelets are the thrombocytes, which help in blood clotting by stopping bleeding. On the wound, they form like a protective barrier so that there is a prevention of the infection. This is about the platelets. Got it, everyone? Now, moving on to the blood vessels. So, before we move on, give me a moment. Let me check the chat for any question. I shall pick one question and I shall discuss. Okay. Okay, I received a question stating that there is lack of nucleus in the RBCs, but how they are efficient in transporting. Remember, RBCs lack a nucleus, definitely, that 100% correct. The RBCs lacking a nucleus, it is giving it a biconcave shape which will be helpful, efficient for transportation of oxygen. We knew RBCs have a pigment called as hemoglobin, a red pigment, the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin binds to oxygen, gives the complex of oxyhemoglobin, and this oxyhemoglobin is responsible for carrying maximum oxygen. Okay, and for this complex to be built up and for the RBCs to efficiently move to the narrow capillary network, the biconcave disc shaped structure lacking a nucleus will be helpful. So that is the reason, even though RBCs don't have a nucleus in them, they will be efficient for showing a good transportation. Okay, now, so moving on with the blood vessels, the components of the circulatory system: heart, blood, and the blood vessels. We have understood about the blood. Let's understand about the blood vessels. Okay, so blood vessels, they are like network of tube-like structures. So there is a flow of the blood inside the blood vessels. That's why we are considering the human respiratory system to be a closed respiratory system, since the blood flows within the blood vessels. Now, coming to the types of blood vessels. So, there are three types. Remember how many types? Tell with me, three types. What are they? Artery, vein, and capillary. The three type of blood vessels. So, what will be with respect to the three types? In which way they are efficient? Let's see the arteries. Okay, in the picture they have given a bright red color. Now tell me, arteries, are they associated with oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood? They are associated with oxygenated blood. Only one exception is there. Not all the arteries. One exception is there. I'll tell you. So arteries, they are like thick wall. The walls of arteries are very thick, very strong. At the same time, they are very elastic. So they are located deep inside the body to protect from injury. Why? Because the blood flows through the arteries in a very high pressure. Okay, imagine there is a rubber pipe in which the water is flowing through high pressure. Okay, and there is a cut in the pipe. Through the cut, there will be oozing out of the water with high pressure. That's the reason what we have to do. The rubber pipe, it should not be exposed to external factors, external surroundings which might create a cut. Instead, what we are doing, we can keep it in a bit safer place. Okay, so that there will not be any cutting, there will not be any expressing of water out. In the similar manner, the arteries are where the blood is flowing with high blood pressure. So even if there is a small damage, the blood comes out, there is a severe, serious injury. That is the reason, in order to protect them from the injury, they are located deep inside the body. So all the arteries are associated with oxygen-rich blood, nothing but the oxygenated blood. So from the heart to different body parts, they are carrying this oxygenated blood. Okay, got it? Huh. So the arteries are having thick elastic walls because in the arteries there is a pumping of the blood with high pressure. And they are not having any valves, any kinds of valves are not present. The largest artery being the aorta. So exception, can anyone of you think about the exception in the arteries? Pulmonary artery, the only exception. So whenever the word pulmonary is there, it is related to the lungs. You need to remember this. Okay. Pulmonary associated with lungs. If the word renal is there, which we'll be seeing in excretory system, it is associated with the kidneys. So the pulmonary artery is the only artery that carries the deoxygenated blood. Only one exception. Now coming to the veins. Now tell me, veins, are they associated with oxygenated or deoxygenated blood? Deoxygenated blood. How can you say that? From the picture. Okay, very good, brilliant. So, the veins are thin and less elastic when compared with that of the arteries, because in arteries the blood flows with a high pressure, but in veins the blood flows with a very low pressure. The blood flow will be very lower, and particularly they can be found near the surface of the skin. Okay. And what does the veins do? They carry the blood from where? From different body parts. That's the reason they are associated with deoxygenated blood. So, from different body parts to the heart, they carry the blood. Again, from the heart, it enters the lungs. Inside the lungs, there is an oxygenation of blood. The oxygenated blood goes back to the heart again. From heart, through arteries, it gets distributed. Okay? So, the veins are containing valves. What is the function of valve? It prevents the backflow of the blood, and it ensures that there is an efficient one-way movement of the blood. And majorly, the veins are the ones which are associated with deoxygenated blood, the carbon dioxide rich blood. So, the only exception in vein, all the veins are associated with deoxygenated blood. The only one exception being the pulmonary vein, which carries the oxygenated blood. Okay, got the point, everyone? Now, moving on, the capillaries. So, capillaries are like very thin, very small blood vessels. They act as a network between the arteries and the veins. They are like a network, they are one cell thick. Okay. So, walls are one cell thick for easy exchange of gases, where we have seen in the alveolar capillary network. Alveolar are surrounded by one cell thick capillaries. There we have seen that. So, what it is doing? It is allowing oxygen and nutrients to move from where? From blood into cells. At the same time, it is carrying the waste materials. What are they? The carbon dioxide back into the blood. Okay, so arteries, veins, and the capillaries. Remember, we started with circulatory system, components of circulatory system. We understood about the blood. Now we are understanding about the blood vessels. So now let's enter into the concept of heart, which is a third component of the circulatory system. So before we move on, let me take some time to have some water and we shall be back again. Thank you so much for allowing that time. Okay. So now let's deal with the heart, the main pumping organ. You know how much will be the size of the heart? It will be the size of your own fist. Just have a look about your fist, and that size will be the size of your heart. So now let's see where this main pumping organ is being present, where it is getting located. So it is located in the region of chest cavity and slightly towards the left side. In more many cases, it will be generally the left side only. In mostly rare conditions, right side heart is also there. Exceptional conditions. Okay, so where it is present between the lungs and where it is lying behind the sternum. And who is protecting it? The rib cage is protecting it. So, heart is such a muscular structure which helps us in pumping, in the distribution of blood to different body parts. Na? So, do you think only the presence of sternum rib cage alone will be having a protective hand? Or there is any other thing that elsewhere protects the heart also? Yes. So let's see. It is surrounded by a double layered covering called as pericardium. So inside the pericardium, there is a fluid, and what we can call the fluid to be the pericardial fluid, and what it acts as. Are you excited to know? Let me tell you. So the pericardium, it is a double layered membrane that surrounds the heart, protects the heart, and it is containing a small amount of fluid. We are going to call it as a pericardial fluid. So it is reducing the friction when the heart is beating, thereby protecting the heart. Got it? So we have now understood regarding the location of the heart, the position of heart, and how it is getting protected also. Now, let's focus on the internal structure of the heart. This is very, very important. Okay, we knew our human heart is having four chambers. What are they? Atria and the ventricles. So, there is a presence of septum between the heart in the mid, which prevents the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay, let's imagine a square over here. Okay, and let's say the upper chambers are the atria and the lower chambers are the ventricles. So giving a division of left and right side gives us with right atria, right ventricle, left atria and left ventricle. So how many chambers? Total of four chambers. And do remember, when you are using atria, the word, if you want it to represent in a singular form, use the word atrium. Right atrium, left atrium. If you are using as both the atria, okay, got the point? Plural form atria, singular form atrium. Similarly, ventricles, plural ventricles, singular ventricle. So the chambers include right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle, corresponding for four chambers of the heart. Now, the atria, which are the upper chambers. So, what does the atria do? This will be very interesting. Okay, remember, sometimes most of you get confused between the arteries and the atria. Arteries are the ones which are associated with oxygenated blood. The only one exception, pulmonary artery, they are the blood vessels. Atria are the chambers of the heart. So, what does the right atrium do? It receives the deoxygenated blood. Now you got the point. They are representing it as blue color, means this portion is associated with deoxygenated blood. Now, what does the left atrium receive? It receives the oxygenated blood. From where? From the lungs. Okay, now moving on to the ventricles. What does the right ventricle do? It pumps the deoxygenated blood to whom? To lungs. For what reason? for oxygenation purpose. At the same time, we have the left ventricle which pumps the blood to different parts of the body. Okay, so this is about the ventricles, the atria and the ventricles. Now, the walls of the left ventricle have an observation. The walls are being thick when compared with that of other chambers because to the entire body they need to distribute the blood, they need to pump the blood, which with very high pressure. So that is the reason the walls of them are being thicker. Got it, everyone? Now, coming to the valves in the heart. So, valves, as we have seen valves in the veins, similarly, there are valves in the heart. Okay, so what does this valves do? They only have the entry but no backflow. The reverse direction will not be possible because the valves will be getting closed. They will be preventing, they will be strictly saying, no, you should not enter. So, valves in the heart are just acting like one way doors. They are allowing the blood flow only in one direction. So, they are simply preventing the backflow of the blood. Now, are you excited to understand about what might be the valves in the heart? Yes, so there are four valves in the heart. Okay, the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve. These come under the classification of AV valve, the atrioventricular valve, which are present between the atria and the ventricles. Okay, so the tricuspid valve, the mitral or the bicuspid valve corresponds for AV valve, and under the same category of semilunar valves, we have the aortic and pulmonary valve. Four categories mainly. Okay, only we are discussing about main things. So now the question arises, now where they are present? Let me tell you. First, coming to the tricuspid valve. So where the tricuspid valve is present? Between the right atrium and the right ventricle. What about the bicuspid or the mitral valve? Where it is present? Between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay, tricuspid, bicuspid is finished. Now semilunar valve, where they are present at the beginning of the pulmonary artery and aorta, we can see the presence of semilunar valve. What are they? The pulmonary valve and the aortic valve. So what does a valve do? It prevents the backflow of the blood. Okay, so now let me have a summary of the valves of the heart for elaborative understanding. You can make a note of it. So the tricuspid valve between right atrium and the right ventricle prevents the backflow of the blood into the right atrium, particularly when there is a contraction of the right ventricle. So the mitral valve at the bicuspid between the left atrium and the left ventricle prevents backflow into the left atrium when the left ventricle is contracting. So aortic valve, where it is present at the beginning of aorta, between the left ventricle and aorta, this being present. From the left ventricle into the aorta, it controls the blood flow. Okay, so pulmonary valve, between the right ventricle and pulmonary artery, this pulmonary valve will be present. It is controlling the blood from where? From the right ventricle into the lungs. So this is how the pathway, the flow will be there. Are you getting? Yes, are you getting, everyone? Any questions? So now the blood vessels which are connected with the heart. The heart have four major blood vessels which are connected to it. Remember, valves also we discussed for, blood vessels also we are discussing for. We also discussed heart has four chambers. Okay, 4 chambers, 4 valves, 4 blood vessels. So what are they? Vena cava, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, and aorta. These are the blood vessels. Remember again, there are many blood vessels, but with respect to heart, we are discussing only few. Okay, so coming to the heart, the vena cava, the pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, and aorta. Vena cava, we have superior vena cava or pre-vena cava, inferior vena cava or post-vena cava. Okay, so understood everyone? Yeah. So let me check the chat once again. Okay. So here a question says hemoglobin being considered a better oxygen carrier when compared with that of the plasma. Why? Why? Because simple reason, hemoglobin combines with oxygen, gives the oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin, the bond is very easier for RBC to transport to different areas, because RBC, since it is not having nucleus, it is biconcave disc shaped structure. It is easy for the RBC to move with the oxyhemoglobin binding complex. Okay, whereas the blood plasma, the concentration will be very low. The dissolution parameter will be very low for oxygen. Okay, so that's the reason hemoglobin being considered. It is an iron containing protein. It is considered for better carrying the oxygen because of its binding capacity. Okay, I hope it is clear for you. Now, moving on. Uh, let's see regarding the internal structure of the heart once again. So, I'll be telling you regarding the internal structure. Just remember 4 chambers: right atrium, right ventricle. And where do we have left atrium? Left ventricle I could find. Yes, right, left atrium I could find. Okay, 4 chambers. And how many valves? 4 valves. Tricuspid, pulmonary, aortic, bicuspid. 4 valves. 4 blood vessels. Vena cava. Vena cava where we can find? Pre-vena cava, post cava, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. Na? We have got it. And what else? Pulmonary veins, pulmonary artery, aorta. Got it? So this is what it. How easy, na? If we are seeing the picture as such at a single glance, we will be like, "What is this? This many parts." But now we have got to know 4 chambers, 4 blood vessels, and 4 valves. Now is it easy for us to understand the internal structure of the heart? Okay. And now let's see the blood vessels connected to the heart, what they are doing. The vena cava, the superior and inferior vena cava, what they will be doing? They will be bringing the deoxygenated blood from the various parts of the body, particularly the superior and inferior. Superior is associated with superior body parts, inferior associated with inferior body parts. So, where they take the blood? To the right atrium and pulmonary artery. Only exception of all the arteries. Huh? What is that? It carries the deoxygenated blood. From where? From right ventricle to where? To lungs. Why? Why? For oxygenation. Now, pulmonary veins, what they do after oxygenation in the lungs? The pulmonary veins carry the oxygenated blood towards whom? To the left atrium to left ventricle to body part distribution. This will be the flow. So, aorta being considered as the largest artery, from the left ventricle to the body, there is a distribution now. So, who is distributing it? There should be some distributor. Who is the distributor? Our aorta is the distributor which carries the oxygenated blood from where? From the left ventricle to different parts of the body. Are you clear, everyone? Are you clear? Yeah. Now, wow, this concept seems to be quite interesting. Okay, I'll explain you in a clear and in a clarified manner. Don't get panicked by seeing all these pictures. It's very easy if you break the concepts, okay? Just listen. The path of blood flow through the heart will be the double circulation. So the type of blood circulation in the heart will be double circulation. What is this? Pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. But what exactly it corresponds for? We know the blood from this heart will be reaching to the lungs. Why? For oxygenation. Okay, oxygenation of the blood. Now, this oxygenated blood again enters the heart. This is one circulation. The blood is flowing through the heart once, and since it is involving lungs, what is the word that we can give for lungs? Pulmonary circulation. So now we got pulmonary circulation. Okay, nice. Now what happened? From the heart, the blood will get distributed to different body parts. Wow, at the same time, in different body parts, because of various metabolic activities, there will be deoxygenated blood. Okay, deoxygenation of the blood happens. So the deoxygenated blood again, it should reach who? Reach the heart. From heart it reaches again back to the pulmonary circulation. So what we are calling this second thing as the systemic circulation. Okay, still you feel difficult? Can we break the points so that it feels very clear for us? So pulmonary circulation, what does the pulmonary circulation actually correspond for? Right? So pulmonary circulation involves the engagement of the lungs over here so that the oxygenation takes place. Okay. So students, before we move on to pulmonary circulation, I just wanted to have some water. I'll be back within few minutes, then we shall continue with the session. Okay. Thank you so much for allowing me the time to have some water. Thank you. So yes, let's get back to the concept we were discussing regarding the pulmonary circulation, right? So the pulmonary circulation corresponds for the oxygenation of the blood within the lungs, and the path of the blood flow will be from heart, and from heart to the lungs. Yeah, let me just go back once again. Yes, from the heart to the lungs and to the heart. So here we could find the right ventricle. Where we have the right ventricle? Here. So the right ventricle is pumping the deoxygenated blood to whom? To the lungs. Through whom? Through the help of the pulmonary artery. Okay, now next what happens? Let's check what is happening. In the lungs, there is an oxygenation of the blood. So blood is getting oxygenated. Okay, so the pulmonary veins are bringing the oxygenated blood back into whom? To the region of the right atrium. This is what we discussed now. Where does the oxygenation happens? In the lungs. So we could find the blood is flowing over here, this circuit, and we are going to call it as a pulmonary circulation, from heart to the lungs, again to the heart. Okay, so what it does, it causes the oxygenation of the blood. There is an addition of oxygen to the blood, and there is a removal of carbon dioxide. Again, go back to the alveolar network, capillary network. What is happening there? Oxygen and carbon dioxide are getting diffused based upon the concentration gradient. Oxygen enters, carbon dioxide eliminated. Yes. So this is the one circuit. Now what we have? Systemic circulation. So in case of systemic circulation, from heart to the body organs, again to the heart. So how does this correspond for? Now we could find the left ventricle. It have received the oxygenated blood. Okay, the left ventricle is distributing the oxygenated blood to the body. So from the body is utilizing the oxygenated blood. Oxygen is getting utilized for carrying out various processes. Along with the same time, the simultaneous manner, we could see carbon dioxide getting produced. So the carbon dioxide should be eliminated out. Yes. Now what happens? The deoxygenated blood from the capillaries of the peripheral tissues of all the organs gets collected, and it is going towards the region of the heart again, into the right atrium with the help of pre-cava and the post-cava. They are also getting involved over here. So from the right atrium again to the right ventricle, from right ventricle to the lungs for oxygenation. This will be the pathway. So the left ventricle pumps the oxygenated blood to whom? To the whole body with the help of whom? The largest artery, nothing but the aorta. So systemic circulation is where the body is using the oxygen and sends the deoxygenated blood to whom? To the region of the right atrium with the help of pre-cava and the post-cava. Okay, pre-caval vein and the post-caval vein. So the systemic circulation, what it is a function of it is corresponding for supplying oxygen and nutrients to all the body cells. So we have seen the blood is flowing twice through the heart. Do you all agree? This corresponds for double circulation. So in birds, mammals and humans, the blood is passing twice in one full cycle. We call it as double circulation. Wow. Okay, now let's see what is the double circulation from heart to lungs to heart for what? For picking up oxygen, and again what? From heart to body to heart again for what? To deliver the oxygen. Okay, so these two pathways corresponds for double circulation. Now, the same pathway students, instead of having explanation with the pictorial form, I also placed it in a sentence form so that it is easy for us to understand. So the same path of the blood flow through the heart we are discussing in a stepwise manner. Okay. From body to heart, the deoxygenated blood is sent. Then it enters from right atrium into right ventricle. Again from right ventricle into lungs for oxygenation. Lungs to left atrium to left ventricle, and from left ventricle to the body. These are the 6 steps. Overall, I have placed that as a 6 steps. So the same steps, let's take up once again. So from body to heart, the deoxygenated blood. So what do the body organs do? What do the body cells do? They use the oxygen, and what they produce? They produce the carbon dioxide. Now the deoxygenated blood, which is getting produced in different body parts, it is being collected by whom? By veins. Okay, and it is being sent to the right atrium through the vena cava, the pre-cava, the post-caval vein, superior and inferior vena cava. Now what happens in the step 2? From right atrium to right ventricle, the right atrium is contracting, and thereby there is a pushing of blood into whom? Into the region of the right ventricle. Now the right atrioventricular valve, the tricuspid valve, opens in this direction to prevent the backflow of the blood. Now we got the use of the right atrioventricular valve. Moving on, from right ventricle to lungs, the right ventricle is contracting and it is sending the deoxygenated blood into the pulmonary artery. So now we could say this blood is going to the lungs for what? For oxygenation. What will be the step 4? In lungs, blood is releasing carbon dioxide, diffusion is happening at the alveolar capillary network, and absorption of oxygen is happening, whereby oxygenated blood is getting produced. Now we have the oxygen rich blood from lungs. It is now sent into the left atrium through whom? With the help of pulmonary veins. All veins are associated with the deoxygenated blood, but only one exception. What it is? The pulmonary vein. Now we got a clarity, right? Now moving on from left atrium to left ventricle. Now what does the left atrium do? It is contracting and it is pushing the blood to whom? To the left ventricle. So what is left atrioventricular valve? Bicuspid or the mitral valve. Now this is controlling and preventing the backflow of the blood. So what will be the final step? From the left ventricle to the body, the left ventricle is now in a stage of contraction and thereby it is pumping the oxygenated blood with the help of the aorta. The aorta branches into smaller arteries. These smaller arteries will be carrying the blood to whom? To each and every organ and every tissue. Got it everyone? So what's happening with respect to the path of the blood flow through the heart? Now, if you could see the heart separation by the wall, we already knew there is a presence of septum. The heart is having two sides, the right and the left. Why? Because there is a presence of thick muscular wall which we called as a septum. So this wall itself is showing a division of the heart, and because of which we got four chambers. What are they? Atria and the ventricles, right atria, right ventricle, left atria and the left ventricle. So what does this separation do? It prevents the mixing of oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood. This happens in case of higher organisms like humans because our body temperature demands will be different when compared with that of the lower organisms. Okay, so what does this separation helps with? With respect to the animals, the birds and mammals, it have the requirement of large amount of energy all the time. Okay, so we are warm-blooded animals. We cannot change our temperature according to the surrounding, right? We have a constant body temperature. And we could see animals with lower energy needs like frogs, reptiles or fishes. They do not need to control their body temperature, because of which they require less energy. They are like cold-blooded animals whose temperature changes according to the environment they are being in. It might be a frog, reptile or fish, anything. Okay. So do you think the separation by the wall with respect to the human heart, can it be there in here also? Can the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood be applied, or there should not be mixing? What do you think? They are of low energy demands now. High energy demands, mixing should not be done, separation will be there. They are having low energy demands. Thereby, we could find the frogs and most reptiles have the three-chambered heart, where some mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood is happening because they do not need high energy. Okay, so fish on the other hand, it have two-chambered heart. The blood is being pumped through the ribs. There is a picking up of oxygen. Now the blood goes to the rest of the body without returning to the heart first. Okay, so we can say there is no returning of the blood to the heart. We can say that the blood passes through the heart only once, means single circulation. But we the human have double circulation. Got it everyone? Okay, so far what we have been discussing? We have been discussing about introduction to the circulatory system. We understood about the human circulatory system. Regarding the main components of the circulatory system, the blood vessels and the heart. So the heart chambers of the heart, four chambers, valves, four major blood vessels associated with the heart we have seen, followed by the path of the blood flow through the heart and the heart separation by wall. That is nothing but the septum. All we have seen this. Okay, are you thinking the class is finished? No, I'm not going to leave you. The transportation chapter is not yet finished, okay? Just I have segregated into the parts. The first part as of now we discussed, no? We shall go for the discussion of the second part as well. Okay, so before that, I just wanted to give you break. Let's take a break of 5 minutes. Okay, are you all okay with it? Let's take a break over here. Wow, so students, I hope the break time is enough for you, right? Huh? Now, are you ready for the next topic of transportation? Yes, yes, I could see many of you are there in today's session. That's fantastic. Listening to me very patiently. First of all, okay, let me check the chat. Just give me a movement. Hmm. Yeah, many questions. One question, let me take. Okay, the question is the flow of blood slow down in capillaries compared to arteries. Why? The reason because we knew in case of arteries, the blood flows with a high blood pressure. Capillaries, on the other hand, they are one cell thick, they are very narrow, but they are having a larger area when compared. So capillaries require the slow pressure in them because majority of the diffusion of gases or transportation of nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, all the diffusion should require some time, right? So if it is moving at a higher pace, at a higher pressure, there will not be sufficient time for this exchange. So in order to facilitate this exchange, the capillaries are having a very slower pressure within them. The flow will be very slow for facilitating this exchange and these transportation systems. Okay, so yes, I hope you got the answer. Now students, let's move on and let's try to see regarding the transportation. Particularly this will be the part 2 of the concept today. Okay, so what are the topics that we are going to see? We shall be understanding regarding the heartbeat, regarding the blood pressure, followed by the maintenance by platelets. We shall be having a focus on lymph and the functions of it, transportation in plants, the transportation pathways including the xylem and the phloem. We shall be understanding the translocation and the differences between the xylem and the phloem. This will be the discussion as of part 2. So coming to heartbeat, what it is. So what does a heartbeat correspond for? Every contraction and relaxation of the heart which occurs rhythmically is called as heartbeat. So in particular we can say the heart muscles which are responsible for pumping the blood throughout the body are showing a rhythmic contraction and relaxation, nothing but the heartbeat. Okay, so each heartbeat, how it is occurring, it has two phases. One is the systole, one is the diastole. Means a phase of contraction and a phase of relaxation. Okay, you imagine, many of you might be sports persons, right? So one of you is a sport person who plays sports very nicely. So is it possible for us to play the sports continuously without any rest? Yeah, at least a bit of relaxation is required now. Okay, now the same happens with the heart. The heartbeat, it also requires a bit of relaxation. It's not like it completely stops working. No, no, no. Heart, if it stops working, there is no survival of a person. Okay, so each heartbeat characterized by contraction and relaxation. We are seeing scientifically them as systole and diastole. So, coming to the systole, the contraction phase. Here, the heart muscles are contracting and they are pushing the blood out of the chambers, into whom there is a movement of blood from ventricles into the region of the arteries. Ventricles are the chambers and arteries are the blood vessels. Okay, so now in the relaxation phase, in the diastole phase, what is happening? The heart muscles, initially they have contracted, now they should relax. They are relaxing, and because of which the chambers will be getting filled with the blood again. So from where the blood flows? From the atria into whom? Into the ventricles. Okay, so the heart sound. Heart sound rhythmically, the rhythmic contractions and relaxations we have seen heartbeat, right? So the heart sound, lup dub sound, we could get it rhythmically. Just try to hear the sound with the help of any thing, any instrument you can use a long hollow tube. Just listen, place it on the chest of your friend. So definitely you will be able to hear the heartbeat, the lump sound. Or yes, if you are having a stethoscope, you can definitely use it. So the lump sound and the dub sound, how they are getting produced, how means particularly this will be the magic of the heart valves. So let's consider about the lump sound when it is getting produced when the atrioventricular valve. What are AV valves? Atrioventricular valve, tricuspid, bicuspid, present between the atria and the ventricles, right atria, right ventricle, left atria and left ventricle, tricuspid and bicuspid. Now, so when this is happening at the beginning of ventricular systole, nothing but contraction. Okay, now the lump sound when it is getting produced. When the ventricle contracts, they push the blood upwards with force. Okay, because of which what happens when the ventricles are contracting, sometimes they push the blood with force. When the forceful movement will be there, definitely go to the upper chambers. This should be prevented, this should not happen. Why? There should be no mixing of oxygenated deoxygenated blood. This will be our main criteria. So to prevent the blood from flowing back into the atria, the AV valves are shutting, creating the lump sound. So how lump sound is getting created, we have known, right? AV valves involved in lump sound. Now other two categories valves are like, how can you think only you both will be involving? We also will be involving in the production of one more sound, that is the dub sound. So here comes our semilunar valves, which are aortic and pulmonary valves. Definitely they are responsible for creation of the dub sound. When they are closing, we could hear the dub sound. But when exactly this occur? At the beginning of diastole. Okay, diastole, systole, systole is contraction, diastole is relaxation. Almost at the end of ventricular systole means contraction, before the beginning of diastole, relaxation, this dub sound is occurring. Now, when the ventricles are relaxing, we knew in the relaxed state, sometimes the blood tries to move towards the heart, right? Now, here the blood should move into different body parts with the help of aorta. Aorta have smaller branches, arteries, through which the blood distribution should happen. When the ventricles are relaxing, the blood is trying to move backward toward the heart. But they are prevented by whom? The semilunar valves, the pulmonary valve and the aortic valve. They are producing the dub sound. Okay, understood? The pulmonary valve, particularly beginning of pulmonary artery. This you need to consider again. Now, what is happening in the heartbeat? We have relaxation and contraction phase, right? Relaxation, nothing but diastole, contraction is systole. So, what happens in diastole? Heart muscles relax and expand, and blood fills the chambers. There will be inflow of the blood. In the contraction phase, the heart muscles are contracting, and the blood is being pumped out of the chambers. There will be a outflow of the blood. Okay, got it everyone? Now, moving on to the blood pressure. Sometimes when we are in very angry situations, we often say this statement, okay, don't provoke me, I'm in high BP. Have you heard or have you spoken? I hope you are good children, you don't do such things now. Yes, so blood pressure, what does the word blood pressure correspond for? Remember students, initially, we discussed regarding circulatory system, components of circulatory system, including the blood vessels and the heart. Okay, now what we started with post break, after the 5 minutes break, we started with the second concept, the contraction phase and the heartbeat. The relaxation contraction phases will be there now, that and lump sound. Okay, now we are into blood pressure. When the blood is flowing through the blood vessels, it is pushing against the walls of the vessels, and this pushing force is called blood pressure, Mainly the blood vessels that are associated over here are arteries. Okay, so blood pressure is higher in arteries when compared with that of the veins, because from the heart towards different regions the blood flow should be there, that too it require a higher force. So for higher force requirement, definitely the pressure should be high. The arteries are carrying the blood with a stronger force, with a greater pressure towards the systems required, whereas the veins carry the blood, particularly the deoxygenated blood, back to the heart with a lower pressure. Okay, now the systolic diastolic pressure. Generally we use sphygmomanometer for measuring the blood pressure, and definitely nowadays the digitalized world we have more advanced technology. So the systolic and the diastolic pressure, what are the terms corresponding for? Generally in the BP machine, the monitor, we will see by 120 by 80. Like that we will see the normal blood pressure. So what it is? There you can see in small letters SYS, DIA, like that they will be mentioning. What it is means the systolic and the diastolic pressure. So systolic pressure, when the heart is contracting, of course it is pumping blood, the ventricles contract, they pump the blood, the pressure in the arteries, it will be very high, and the pressure which is very high over here is called systolic pressure. Okay, now diastolic pressure, when the heart is relaxing, it is getting filled with the blood, and now the pressure becomes slower. What does this correspond for? It corresponds for diastolic pressure. Systolic, diastolic. So the normal blood pressure for a healthy adult human, as we all knew, it is 120 by 80 mm of H. 120 corresponds for systolic pressure and 80 corresponds for diastolic pressure. Got it, everyone? Yes. So far, blood pressure, heartbeat, heart sound are done. Now, a generalized topic, that is maintenance by platelets. What happens if there is a cut? Let's start oozing out. We need to stop it. Generally, what we do, we apply some turmeric or antiseptic creams or band-aids. And the natural process that is helping us inside our body, it is nothing but the maintenance by platelets. Okay, application of turmeric, antiseptic, of course they will be helpful for preventing the entry of external microorganism into the cut open wounds and prevent further infections or further damage. But the original mechanism is given by whom? Our body itself. So who is helping it? The platelets are nothing but the thrombocytes. So what happens when we are getting cut? Blood starts to ooze out from the wound, and now the platelets are reaching the injured area. After reaching the injured area, they release they release a substance called as thrombokinase. So what does this thrombokinase do? Do you want me to tell what does this do? Yes, let me tell you. The maintenance of platelets, the chemical process of clotting, what exactly happens over here? So the thrombokinase, it is being released, right? The thrombokinase act on a factor called as prothrombin, and this prothrombin is converted into another factor. The result over here will be thrombin. So thrombin correspondingly acts on a soluble protein which is called as fibrinogen. Now the fibrinogen is converted into fibrin, which is thread-like fibers, insoluble. Now the blood cells are getting trapped within the fibrin. So what is the change that is happening? The fibrin fibers are helping for the trapping of the blood cells and forms a blood clot. So blood cells are trapped. There is no way. Now, do you think oozing of the blood plasma, everything that does it occur? The blood, it does not move out now because the blood cells are already trapped over here. This is what a platelet does. Okay. Now how the blood clot is forming? The fibrin threads are insoluble. They are like net. It is covering the cut. It is trapping the blood cells. So in this net, who is getting stuck? Red blood cells. It's like a trap. Clearly, the platelet is trapping the other blood cells. Okay, this is not like harming, but it is beneficial for us only. The red blood cells and other blood cells get stuck, because of which a solid clot is being formed. So now the fibrin threads. Imagine, okay, you went for a fishing. Okay, you have big net with you, placed in a pond, have taken up. Now what you will do? You will be pulling the edges of the net so that you will be seeing the fishes will not be going out. They cannot escape. There is no escape. In the same manner, the fibrin threads, after formation of the network for trapping, it forms a net, right? Insoluble fibrin fibers, they trap the blood cells and they pull the edges together so that there is a closing and the healing of the wound. Here in this case, it is healing. There in that case, the fish should not escape. Okay. So after the clot forms, a yellow liquid is being left behind. This is how the blood clot is forming. So now let's move on to the lymph. What is lymph? It is an important fluid for transportation along with the circulatory system. Blood we have seen na, lymph is one more fluid, the secondary transportation fluid. So it helps in keeping the body tissues clean and moist, and it helps in carrying the materials. But what is lymph exactly? Let me tell you what is lymph. We know through the capillaries, the blood is flowing. The capillaries are very, very thin, 1 cell thick we have seen. Na? The capillaries are having tiny pores. So what we need to do with the tiny pores? Now we could see the lymph is going to get connected into tiny tubes. But what is this lymph? The capillaries are having tiny pores. Now what happens? There is a oozing of the substances from the capillaries. They will be draining outside and they create the lymph. In the tiny tubes, the lymph gets collected and these are called as lymphatic capillaries. These lymphatic capillaries, they together join and they give out lymphatic vessels. So finally, there is a opening of them into large veins and returning of the fluid back to the blood. This is what happens within the lymph. So what will be the function of the lymph? What it does? It will be returning the extra fluid from where? From tissues back to whom? Back into the blood. So thereby this is a prevention of the swelling. And the lymph, we have seen the liquid, the parts used, the substances ooze out from the capillaries. So WBCs will also be present. Since it is containing the WBC, it is fighting against germs, it is defending the body. And it is also carrying the digested fats from where? From the region of small intestine into whom? Into the bloodstream. It also helps in the purification of waste materials from where? From the tissues. This will be the functions of the lymph. Okay, so transportation in plants, let me take few minutes. Yeah, thank you so much for allowing that time. Okay, actually, I was coughing a bit, so I have to take the time. So now coming to the transportation with respect to the plant. So far we have been understanding regarding the transportation with respect to the human beings, right? Now it's time for us to understand about the plants as well. So if we could find the plants transportation system, of course even they require the transportation of nutrients within their systems. And how the transportation is being done, it is of two kinds, one with the help of xylem and the other with the help of phloem. The xylem and the phloem, what these are called as conduction tissue or vascular tissue. Do you all remember your previous grades concept? So, in the transportation pathway with respect to the xylem is responsible for the movement of water in the upward region. So, particularly from the roots to the upper parts of the plant, to the stems, leaves, branches, to the distribution to different parts of the plant, the xylem will be playing a very important role. What with respect to the food? Phloem. Xylem is associated with water and mineral transport, and phloem is associated with food transport. So, the components of xylem. Have an observation about the beautiful picture. What are they? We have the tracheids, vessels, the xylem fiber, the xylem parenchyma. Actually, this will be combined together, but just for the representation sake, I have placed them in a separate manner. The xylem components. What will be the xylem components? What is the function of them? Again, let me tell you. Xylem is responsible for the transportation of water and minerals. Xylem components include vessels, tracheids, fibers, and parenchyma. All the cells of the xylem are dead except that of parenchyma. Okay, when the word parenchyma have come, you have to blindly remember it is of living cell. All the xylem cells, xylem tissues are made of dead cells. Okay, so what are xylem vessels? They are long tube-like structure that are responsible for conducting the water, most of the water, and tracheids help in the movement of water and support. Okay, xylem fibers gives the strength, but when they are performing all these things, they also require the food storage. Na? So the parenchyma takes up this food storage, it is storing the food and it also helps in the movement. So how the water is now entering the plant? This will be the question. We know xylem is the conduction tissue responsible for the water movement, but how the water movement is occurring? You know, the xylem is being involved in the unidirectional movement. Okay, so the cells in the root hairs, they are absorbing the mineral ions. The mineral ions, we knew they are already being present in the soil, right? So the root cells are taking up the minerals. Now the root cells have minerals. So what does this correspond for? The concentration inside the roots is higher when compared with that of the concentration in the soil. So there is a concentration gradient now being established. Now, in order to balance this, water from where? From the soil is entering to the roots. So can we give any name for this? What do you think? Can we give any name? Let me tell you what we can give, how the water is entering the plant. Since there is a creation of push over here, the push being created is called as root pressure. So what does this root pressure do? It is pushing water upward through the xylem. Do you think root pressure is alone enough for taking water to top of tall trees? Imagine small trees, of course you can go for root pressure and everything. But imagine if the tree is very higher like eucalyptus, palm trees. Root pressure alone, do you think is enough? No, no, no. One more thing will be playing a very important role. So, what is that? Let me tell you. Okay, but before revealing what is that, I wanted to just show an experiment. Okay, here we are having two pots filled with mud. I am taking a plant, okay, filled with same quantity of mud over here. I am taking a plant, placing inside one pot. I am covering it with a plastic or polythene sheet. Next, I am taking a stick which is very similar to that of the plant that I have taken over here. The same height, I have placed a polythene sheet. So I have observed after some time. Now tell me, where can I observe water droplets? Inside that one or inside this one? Where is a possibility for me to observe the water droplets? Inside this one. Why? Now comes the concept of transpiration. So what is transpiration? It is the loss of water in the form of which one? In the form of water vapor through the surface of the leaf. So the transpiration is the pull with respect to taller plants. The transpiration is pulling the water upwards. Okay, so we knew from the surface the water is evaporating, and because of which a suction force, a suction pull is being created, nothing but the transpirational pull, because of which more water is getting dragged in the stem from the xylem, from the root region towards the xylem. Okay, now one more thing. Let's consider two scenarios, during the daytime, during the night time. Now, tell me, during the daytime, do you think root pressure or transpiration will be helping? During the night time, daytime, what will be helping, the transpiration or root pressure, or both of them, or either of them, or one of them? Think of it. Meanwhile, let me check if any questions. Okay, a question says, phloem transport is stopping, but xylem transport is continuing. What happens to the plant? Okay, phloem transport. Phloem is responsible for transportation of food. Huh? Xylem is responsible for transportation of what? Water. Right? So if phloem is stopping, but xylem is working, phloem responsible for food transportation. If there is no food, particularly if the food even not reaching the root, how do you think root is performing its function? No, na. Eventually, after few days, the root dies. After few days, the plant itself whole will be dying. Even if either of them are not properly functioning, there is no survival of the plant. If phloem is removed, xylem alone cannot help in survival. Food should be there, water should be there. Okay? Now, previously I asked one, na, root pressure or transpiration, which one will be helping? What do you think? So let me tell you, we have understanding about the transpirational pull, water getting pulled from the roots to the stem region and the leaf from the root region. So during the daytime, we could find the transpirational pull is helping us. So the transpiration helps in the loss of water in the form of water vapor, creates a transpirational pull through which the xylem will be responsible for uptaking the water and dissolved minerals. So what it is doing, the pulling of water and dissolved minerals from where? From roots to the leaves. So it also causes cooling of the plant by doing what? By reducing the heat, temperature regulation. It is also helpful for maintaining a continuous water flow within the xylem. Okay, so at the night time, when root pressure is important, when it is not important, let me tell you, during the daytime, transpirational pull. Okay, transpiration, loss of water in the form of water vapor through the surface of the leaf. It occurs through the stomatal pores. At the night time, Most of the stomata are closed. Transpiration is very low. Now transpiration, can it help? No, no, transpiration cannot be the driving force. Now, the root pressure will be helping for moving the water upward, particularly during the night. So during the day, stomata open, transpirational pull is a major driving force, but during the night, stomata close, root pressure will be the main driving force. Okay, now coming to the concept of transportation of food and various substances in plants. So we knew photosynthesis is a process through which the green plants will be synthesizing the food. The phloem is responsible for the transportation of food to different parts of the plant. And the phloem over here, we can see everywhere, phloem everywhere, it is responsible for bidirectional movement. Okay, so xylem only unidirectional from the root towards the top upwards, but phloem is bidirectional. Okay, because the food that is synthesized in the leaf should reach all the parts, to the top parts, to the bottom parts. That's why bidirectional. Now, what is translocation? Translocation is nothing but the transportation of food materials from where, from the site where they are getting produced, from the leaves to the other parts of the plant, through which, through phloem, in bidirectional pathway, in the upward and the downward direction. So what it is doing? It is involving a bidirectional pathway, upward as well as the downward movement. Now, why the food is required by the plant? Of course, it also requires energy. It also needs to perform various activities, growth and developmental activities. So the food is also being required by root, fruit, seed, stem, and majorly, specifically, most importantly, growing shoots and young leaves. They require the food. Okay, so the food is reaching the storage organs finally, where it is reaching. For suppose we can say many example, potatoes, carrots, grains, fruit, seeds, anything, growing pads, growing shoots, young birds, young leaves. Okay, so the food is reaching to the storage organs. Now, how does phloem transport the food? We knew with respect to xylem, transpirational pull is a major driving force during the day. During the night time, who is there? During the night time, root pressure. But how does the phloem transport the food? It is using ATP, energy, for the food movement. So it is consisting of tube-like structures called as sieve tubes. Along with the sieve tubes, we have phloem components like companion cells, which helps in the loading of the food into the sieve tubes. So let me tell you the components of the phloem over here. The sieve tube element, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. Just for the representation I have put. Okay. Now if you could see, all the cells of the phloem are living cells. Only one exception, that is the phloem fiber. So what does the sieve tubes do? It is like a continuous column, the main tube through which the food gets loaded and the food will be flowing. It is a living cell. Companion cell, what it does? It helps in loading the food into sieve tubes. So it is controlling and supporting the sieve tubes. This is all living cell. Phloem fiber is providing the strength. Okay, it is being made of dead cell. That's why strength. And phloem parenchyma, as usual, xylem parenchyma stores the food, phloem parenchyma also stores the food. Living cell. In xylem, all the components are dead except xylem parenchyma. In phloem, all are living except whom? Phloem fiber. So how translocation is occurring? First, initially, the sugar which is being made in leaf get loaded into the phloem cells, the phloem sieve tubes. Okay, and for this, the energy requirement in the form of ATP is required. The sugar is now entering the phloem. There is an establishment of concentration. So concentration of dissolved substance is increasing, because of which there is a rise in the osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure is rising. Now, when there is a high pressure, what happens over here? Osmotic pressure is being created. Now, water is entering the phloem by the process of osmosis. This in turn, what it does, the pressure is pushing the sugary solution from where? From a region of a high to low pressure area. Thereby, the food is moving through the phloem to different paths. Okay, so now you have understood what is happening with respect to the translocation. So now if we could take the difference between xylem and phloem with respect to what they are differing, what the xylem is transporting? Water and minerals. Phloem corresponds for food. The direction is unidirectional in xylem, but in phloem it is both upward and downward. Energy used? No energy used in xylem. Only the concentration gradient, but phloem ATP, active transport. Main force during the day is a transpirational pull. During the night it is root pressure, whereas the phloem is pressure flow mechanism. Are you all clear? Yes, okay. Just give me a moment. Let me check the chat again. Okay, one question. Flow in transport, why it is called as translocation? Simple. Why specifically we are mentioning translocation means, in case of xylem, there is movement from the roots to the top parts. But phloem is responsible for moving to various parts, upwards or downwards. So that is the reason we are using with the term translocation. Okay. So finally students, we are at the end of today's session. I hope the session, the concept is clear for every one of you. We are discussing about the heartbeat in the topic 2. The second part we discussed regarding the blood pressure, the maintenance given by platelets. We understood about the lymphatic system, the function of it, followed by the transportation pathways in plants, the phloem and the xylem, and we understood about the xylem and phloem along with these differences. So this is of today's session. Keep learning the concepts. If any questions, feel free to get connected with us through the comment section. Okay. Thank you. Have a great evening.